Of the President and the Board of Trustees of the Cebu IT-BPM organization, or CIB.O, welcome to Day 2 of the 2022 Transformation Summit and Expo. CIB.O is an industry association of over 200 key players and stakeholders formed to sustain growth of the IT-BPM sector. What's next for the IT-BPM industry? What's next stage of our transformation? What's the next level play? In the next 3 hours, we will cover updates in the IT-BPM industry, business transformation and automation, and sustainable cybersecurity. As we're progressing with today's talks, feel free to key in your questions in the chat box in Zoom. Please also visit the Expo at the Transformation Summit website. Hang on until the end of today's session for you to qualify for exciting prizes that will be received via GCash. For the winners from yesterday's session, please check the details at the CIB.O Facebook page. The mechanics, just visit the Expo at the Summit website and stay on until the end of today's session. So is everyone ready? Well, we are ready. To commence Day 2 of CIB.O Transformation Summit and Expo, let me welcome the Mayor of the City of Cebu, Honorable Michael Lopez Rama, for his opening remarks.
The quest for becoming Singapore-like begins as Mayor Mike Rama sets off a fresh start as the Chief Executive Officer of Cebu City. In the next 3 years, he is determined to realize the long-delayed BRT and the conduct of studies and initial stages in the rollout of a monorail along coastlines, an LRT through the hinterlands, traversing north to south, a cable car system going up the highlands, subways like in New York, and a viaduct and widened arterial roads with flared intersections. At the height of the pandemic, as Vice Mayor to the late Mayor Edgardo Colina Labella, Mike Rama pursued, with the private sector, the establishment of the NOAA Quarantine Center, that he further transformed to a mega vaccination center while serving as acting mayor. As Vice Mayor, Rama steered the Pabakunata vaccination campaign that rolled out 21 vaccination centers, various pop-up sites, a drive-through, and house visits Tok Tok Bakuna. As acting mayor, Rama steered the city through the Delta and Omicron variants and got on board more sectors in government and the private sector through a consultative process now known as the Convergence. The Convergence helped shape the executive orders and directives that Mike Rama, both as acting and ascended mayor, issued as guides through the challenges of the pandemic and Super Typhoon Odette. The most significant is his declaration of freedom from the restrictions of the pandemic during the 85th Charter Day last February 24 to spark back the economy while reminding the public to be mindful with minimum public health standards. Gawas no nata, amping lang, came the battle cry. Since Rama's declaration, various businesses opened back. Employees in limbo have returned to work. Industries, hotels, and restaurants have since been rehiring. Public transport carried passengers in full capacity. And children slowly went back to school to study face to face. As Mike Rama ascended as mayor, With Vice Mayor Dondon Hontiveros, he embarked on 21 focus items that he prioritized over the last 6 months. Among those the mayor had accomplished, he had released the long overdue financial assistance to 31 barangays, achieved herd immunity through massive vaccination, liberated the economy, anchored on vaccination, brought back City Hall at your doorsteps, went after grafters and fixers, streamlined business permit processing, attended continuously to the flooding problem, convened a solid waste summit, pushed forward to finish the Cebu City Medical Center, resumed street lighting, cured the JVA on the carbon market redevelopment. As Mayor Mike Rama opens a new chapter for Cebu City, he is determined to conclude during the first 100 days 5 items in the 21-gun salute. Pay fully the SRP loan. Materialize the 93-1 deal. Realize the BRT project. Convene a traffic summit. Asphalt city streets. With the support of the City Council, now led by Vice Mayor Raymond Garcia, Mayor Rama aims to accomplish within the first 100 days the first stages of 4 long-term projects included in the 21-gun salute that will lead to install public Wi-Fi portals, rollout of Let There Be Light program to more households, engage developers obliged to undertake socialized housing, to build 2 MRBs that will prioritize those affected in the clearing of the 3-meter easement of city rivers. Plan for a condominium for City Hall and other government employees. Equip and modernize the police force and build new police stations with the private sector. Among those Mayor Mike Rama wants to fulfill within the first 100 days of his administration would be to bring about the atmosphere to bring life to various infrastructures. This includes placement of bougainvillea on the sides of every flyover and gardening underneath these flyovers. Landscape side streets, starting with the Manila-Talamban corridor. Redesign major sidewalks to become more accessible. Begin to incorporate flared intersections at major crossings. Start to transform a portion of Magallanes Street from MJ Cuenco to Plaza Cebu into a promenade and boardwalk, an artistic leisurely public walkway. Revisit the study for a Guadalupe-Lahug bypass road. Equip and modernize the creation of a Cebu City College. Meanwhile, at SRP, the mayor wants to add up the original alignment of CC-Lex over Guadalupe River through V. Rama Avenue. Connect SRP to the mainland through 7 bridges. Commence efforts to build MRBs for socialized housing along the seafronts of Inayawan, Kinasangan, Cogon Pardo, Mambaling, Dulho Fatima, Sawang Calero, Pasil and Armita. Realize the construction of a new Cebu City Hall at SRP. Ensure the start of civil works by Expedition Construction Corporation in the development of Pond A and the former Inayawan landfill. Support and ensure the start of projects DPWH had planned for, especially the roundabout at the T-junction near SMC side to Mambaling. Mayor Rama ran with his team in Partido Barug with a platform anchored on the acronym Barug Cebu City, which has now evolved as the program of his administration. Based on the Barug Cebu City program, the executive team selected in a workshop what to accomplish in 100 days and for the rest of the 3-year term of the Rama Garcia administration. Some of those included push further the Pabakunata campaign through, among other strategies, Tok Tok Bakuna and special vaccination days for private schools and the remaining public schools. Complete the shell of the new CCMC building. Establish a molecular laboratory at CCMC. Aggressively clear obstructions by buildings and structures along waterways. Improve the setup for reblocking, starting at Punta Princesa, and bid to host the Palarong Pambansa. The targets here are a tall order for Mayor Mike Rama to accomplish. But he is determined to realize them. Anchored on his proven track record, during his previous 2 terms as mayor, and during his stint as acting and ascended mayor, he needs the support of the 27 departments and all other offices at City Hall, the 80 barangays, the convergence of the private and public sector leaders, the interfaith group led by Archbishop Jose Palma, and everyone in Cebu City. Only in unity and solidarity will Cebu City, with the new leadership of Mayor Mike Rama, be able to carry on the quest to transform Cebu City to be Singapore like. True indeed. Together, we can make better things happen for Cebu City. In God we trust.
Good afternoon, Mayor Mike. Maayong hapon.
Ngayong hapon, DJ Moises. So, am I expected again to do the same thing I did yesterday?
Mayor.
Or, yes, or in a nutshell, I will just perhaps welcome all of the people in this portal, in this illustrious convergence of minds and hearts in the Transformation Summit Expo 2022. The next level play. Again, I will not proceed without having to greet His Excellency Asim Roy, the President of CIBO. That stands for Cebu Information Technology Business Process Management. Excuse me. And likewise, today and this afternoon, I'm getting into the number of people. We're over already 100 again viewing this second day. In Bisaya, I have become a permanent fixture, Asim, in this assembly. And this is the second day. In Bisaya, I already and ought to receive a discount, Suki. But nonetheless, it's always a pleasure for me to be a part of a continuing education. I will be sticking it up while the whole afternoon's process. But again, this is a wonderful, and I take it as a privilege to get and be a part of this afternoon's convergence. And I think that will be up that I would like to be talking because the video will speak for itself. The whole video will speak for itself, truly. And I wish the last statement that I would probably be bringing as we start this afternoon's journey of intellectual and educational, shall we say, enrichment. And let the ending will be a fruition of beautiful added experience, especially for me. Just like yesterday, I've been enjoying with especially Taiwan, James, discussing about what Cebu and the rest of the speakers should have. And I was telling Asim and DJ, give me the contact number of James Xiao, if I'm not mistaken. But I want to connect with him because it is not only Singapore-like that we would wish Cebu City to be into. It can be Taiwan-like or whatever like that other countries are into, not only on information technology, but in the other facets that will bring investment, tourism, and promote our being a heritage city and continue to be competitive. Because when I was your mayor in 2010, this CIB organization or the so-called Cebu Information Technology Business Process Management, we were number 8. And I was very, very proud to be a part of such journey, bringing Cebu City until my term was over from 2010 to 2016. And I will assure you, I will be a connecting mayor. I will assure you that I will be the listening mayor. And likewise, I will assure you, as I was telling Asim, Roy, and DJ, you being a part of the convergence, bring the message of this organization to that convergence so that the city of Cebu will be coming out concretely as a real partner. For we believe that this organization always play a vital role in the entirety or our economic and what we call social, cultural, and even medical pursuit that will bring us really what we wish the city will be. For together, as I always highlighted, together we can make greater things happen, and CIB organization always be with us for Cebu City. Daghang salamat, maayong hapon kan inyong tanan. Good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for your kind words, and you have all our commitment. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Mike. Indeed, we are ready for the positive changes and the developments in Cebu. The global foothold of the Philippine IT-BPM industry is largely attributable to the strong skills of the Philippine labor force. Filipinos hold competitive advantage in English communication skills, strong customer service orientation, and adaptability to consumers' Western culture. More than 250 IT-BPM companies in the islands are concentrated in the highly urbanized cities of Cebu, Mandaue, and Lapu-Lapu. How does the IT-BPM landscape look like moving forward? The sector is expected to grow at least 5% annually this year and moving forward. The question is, after more than 2 years into the pandemic, what's the outlook for this year? To talk about Cebu, the sector, and the possibilities moving forward is the General Manager of IONOS. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now turning over the virtual stage to Miss Pierre, Pauline, Yrastorza.
Thank you, DJ, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. For this afternoon session, I'll be talking about what lies ahead for Cebu City and IT-BPM environment in general. I'd like to begin by talking about IONOS. Who we are, what we do, why are we here, and what are we looking forward to. So we are IONOS. We have strategic footprint in 17 markets worldwide with 8.9 million customer contracts. We join forces with 3,500 employees representing 50 nationalities. This covers the IONOS group as of March of this year. We do have, a very strong customer base and are recognized as unique for being the #1 European SMB digitalization partner and cloud enabler. Our headquarters is in Montabaur in Germany, and we do have support offices here in Cebu. So I'd like to walk you through the journey of IONOS. In the year 2000, the company changed its name to United Internet and moved its product and businesses to One-in-One Internet AG. In 2018, One-in-One merged with cloud infrastructure specialist called Profit Bricks and rebranded as One-in-One IONOS. The rebrand, involved a name change and a very slightly redesigned website, but the service offerings and prices initially stay the same. However, One-in-One IONOS introduced some new services the following year, including a personal consultant service for customers. So as of September 2019, One-in-One IONOS held second place in ranking of the market share of the global web hosting providers. So in August of last year, our company changed its legal name in the US to IONOS Inc. For your appreciation, I'd like us to watch a very short clip of one of our advertisements.
Nice shop, nice baby, nice. Aunt Helga, the pleasure is yours. Good at knitting, bad at building websites. Relax, darlings, websites, hosting, domains. I own this.
I own this. I own this.
Happy jumpers, websites, hosting, domains. IONOS.
Yeah, as shown in the video, IONOS helps businesses with their websites and the web hosting needs. So here in IONOS, we have different activities to ensure we are sustainable, attractive, and great company to work for. Last year, we had our site renovation and beautification programs. We had, an enhanced recruitment process using new tools and approaches to ensure our new hires are ready to provide world-class customer service to our customers. We also continuously enhance our benefits, such as, but not limited to, health and life insurance. We do have, additional 30 days of paid maternity leave on top of the government mandated. So here in IONOS, we value each and every employee. We review and implement a needs-based employee retention program in different critical stages of employee life cycle. So moving on, thinking, why should you settle and invest in Cebu City? When you are seeking to, start or expand the business, you will want to go to a place where you have all the elements that will support your needs. And for us at IONOS, one of those places is definitely Cebu. Among the reasons we settled and invested in Cebu is definitely the demographics. Cebu province has around a 5 million population as of May 2020, with Cebu City having nearly 1 million. When you settle and invest in Cebu, you will soon realize that it cannot be just, all work and play. Cebu's topography is very unique. It allows you easy access to the mountains and the sea. Whatever you choose to relax, Cebu seems to have it all. If you choose nature, definitely we do have, the diving spots, the rivers, the waterfalls, the springs, caves, everything that you could think of. If you choose the city life, there are luxury hotels and first-class restaurants. We do have, the popular coffee shops and golf courses. So right here you have, the best of both worlds. Another asset of Cebu that we are seeing right now is education. Education here in Cebu integrates the English language in the curriculum. There are more than 100 higher education institutions across the province, and they are producing an increasing number of graduates with the degrees in information technology, which is very important to us, engineering, and business administration. With a huge population and emphasis on education, there is now a promise of skilled manpower that we can tap in the IT-BPM sector. Supporting these factors is the availability of office spaces and digital infrastructure. The Cebu IT Park, where IONOS in Cebu makes its home, is among the IT economic zones in the country that provide office spaces and support companies with digital infrastructure. This 27-hectare integrated mixed-use development was recognized by the Philippine Economic Zone Authority as an information technology park in 2000. This is the first in Visayas and Mindanao region. It was granted the special economic zone status in 2001, which tells us that Cebu was definitely ready, long ready to welcome and support the IT BPM industry before the term IT BPM became popular term locally. It is also worth noting that Cebu's office space recorded positive net take-up for 3 consecutive quarters by the end of the third quarter of 2021, according to Collier's Philippines. And that is reflective of increase of business confidence of different business sectors. And on the other hand, the government do continue to roll out programs that will provide IT BPM industry with robust digital infrastructure. So I think Cebu makes a successful study for the global IT BPO industry. Looking at the data, there were only 4 IT BPM companies with 1,200 employees back in 2004. This year, Cebu has around 600 IT BPM companies with more than 200,000 workers. In a span of nearly 2 decades, the IT BPM sector has indeed, tremendously grown. Who wouldn't want to be in the center of this booming economic sector with a steady pool of talents? I'd like to, share our story here in IONOS. So we started in Bigfoot in March 2004 with only 13 employees. We moved to Cebu IT Park in 2006 and employed 80 people. We have now, 400 strong employees supporting US and UK hosting customers. And the rest is a remarkable history. So let's check, how do IT BPMs adapt to the current trend and needs? So for example, there's Netflix, right? It has disrupted the process of the cable and television industry and transformed the way people watch movies. And there's Spotify, which transformed the way we listen to music. And the third one would be Airbnb, which has provided a new accommodation model. So the IT BPM companies, my question would be, how are you rethinking your current operation through a new lens while propped up by this digital technology opportunities? Your answer to this question will definitely, take part to set the direction for your strategy to improve how you work so you will be ready for any trend, need, or crisis. Digitalizing your business processes comes with many benefits. One of them is the internal efficiency, which involves rethinking and improving your process with the support of digital technologies, such as the cloud technology, e-commerce, cybersecurity, and IT infrastructure. Another benefit of digitalization is the ripple effect that the internal efficiency guarantees. And this is giving you more time and energy, and also, the resources to provide high value service offerings to your customers. So therefore, it is, important that us IT BPM companies take a proactive approach rather than to have the wait and see attitude, particularly during a crisis. Digitalization, the pivot of technology for higher adaptability and resilience. There's just a lot that we need to proactively change the way we approach things now. Companies need to define their position when it comes to digitalization because it's not easy as it sounds, which is why there are companies like IONOS with digital technology products such as domain registration, the website security that we have, website builder hosting, virtual private servers, and dedicated servers, and all the relevant tools that you will be needing, intended to support what you are to set to adapt to any of the situations. So, from these two benefits, we learned that digitalization influences innovation and competitiveness. This perspective is very important for the Cebu city, which is dedicated for the growing IT-BPM industry in the coming years. And this brings me to, next part of my talk, which is about projections for Cebu IT-BPM industry in the next 3 to 5 years. These projections are, essentially founded on the lessons we have acquired about the sector over the past years, including the pandemic period. For instance, we've learned the industry added, 143,000 jobs for Filipinos across the country despite the challenges of the pandemic period, with Cebu alone generating a good fraction of sorry, with a good fraction of 200,000 employees working in the Metro Cebu. The IT-BPM industry and the CIBO is looking around, 10,000 more workers before the end of the year. So when we have, a sector that continues to contribute to the local and national economy, even under critical situations, we can definitely look forward to the future with optimism. Now that, many governments are lifting requirements, public mobility has eased, companies are adjusting work arrangements that best fit their operations and businesses. We are hiring again. We will witness IT-BPM industry in Cebu recovering well from the impact for the past 2 years. This industry will continue to become an economic driver for Cebu. This recovery will come in different forms, definitely. So IT-BPM companies may, reap the fruits of continued investments that they may have despite the pandemic. So just for example, at IONOS, we are continuously expanding our portfolio and continued investments in technology and cloud infrastructure. As a result, we have hired and continue to hire highly technical individuals to support us in different areas of the business, such as developers, servers, retentions, and sales. Other IT-BPM companies may also enjoy the positive impact of the solutions for internal operations they develop to cope up with global health crisis, including cloud migration, automation solutions, and improved supply. In the recent Tholon's, top 100 super cities list, Cebu City's position dropped from the 15th spot in 2020 to the 52nd rank in 2021 after Tholon's added innovation, startup ecosystem, and digital transformation to the criteria that define its index for the list. This will change, Cebu City's IT-BPM industry to embrace innovation and digital transformation in their business operations, which is very reflective of the Philippines' rank at 10 out of 141 in companies embracing disruptive ideas in the World Economic Forum's 2019 Global Competitiveness Index. This is also one of the guides that will set our direction towards becoming even more competitive in the global arena. We will also see in the coming years how Cebu's IT-BPM sector's growth will be driven by high-value services such as data analytics, application development management, system integration, automation enablement, 3D animation, augmented and virtual reality, and gamification. All of these means that the demand for more skilled and reskilled workers and more, office spaces will continue to eventually rise. We will need more data analytics and scientists, software engineers, AI, machine learning specialists, big data specialists, process automation specialists, and security analysts, and the Internet of Things specialists, among others of all highly developed companies who will be needing these top talents with the support definitely of the government, which is very keen in upgrading existing digital infrastructure and improve the country's quality of education and provide, a skilled workforce through policies and programs. Cebu's IT-BPM industry only sees bright horizons for the future and constantly ready for the next level play. So here at IONOS, we support and believe as what we have done the past 18 years, and we will continue with our presence in decades to come. Thank you for your time, and I wish everyone a pleasant day.
Living in a time that's filled with challenges and opportunities. IONOS is a web hosting company. It was founded in Germany in 1988 and is currently owned by United Internet. In addition to web hosting, it also provides domain registration, SSL certificates, email services, website builder packages and cloud hosting, as well as virtual private servers and dedicated service. Yesterday, we talked about digitalization strategy and data to value. Today, we're going to touch more about business transformation and automation. While the terms automation and business transformation are often used interchangeably, they have distinct meanings. Automation is a means to an end, and the desired end is business transformation. Business transformation requires not only making existing processes more efficient, but creating or unlocking new value for customers. To help us learn more about these is the Senior Vice President for Transformation at QBE Global SSC. Friends, let's give our virtual applause to Mr. Shaikh.
Thank you, DJ, for the introduction. Maayon hapon sa inyong tanan. First of all, thank you to our Cebu IT-BPM organization for inviting me to be part of this year's Transformation Summit. Business transformation, digital transformation is something I'm quite passionate about, and I'm happy to be here to share my thoughts, the roadblocks we have normally when we implement these, and how do we go about, addressing those. Now, without further ado, let me share my screen and let's get started. Now, before we get started about digital transformation, it's important to understand what is the need we have to transform from an organizational perspective. Is it for the growth? Are we looking to grow? Are we actually trying to change the way we interact with our business because the way we interact now is obsolete? Or are we actually looking at platforms which have changed the way we operate, which we think can be a catalyst for a lot of organizational changes? Looking at the changes we're having towards talent implications, will it actually change the way we do business, our talent models? Are we going to look at innovative ways of looking at it? It's extremely important to know the need to transform before you start looking at transformation. So that is extremely crucial. Now, let's talk about the challenges we encounter about when we do about transformation. It's interesting that recently when you hear about transformation from the leaders, the recent survey tells us that 70% of firms actually had challenges to get anything out of the digital transformation program because the leaders had resistance to the change and they were not okay with it. Only 16% of the employees actually thought that the company's transformation initiative got some improvement to their performance. Now, people tend to forget that transformation is not about adding new tools and technologies. It's about addressing a problem or addressing a solution with an innovation attached to it. It means you got to look at your processes, your tools, technology all combined. And normally you will encounter some challenges about people's reaction when you make changes, the customer relationship you have. It just makes things difficult. The cost aspects of it, are they aligned with business goals? All of this taken into consideration makes digital transformation difficult. But that doesn't mean it cannot be done. It can be done. You just have to think things through, overcome all the challenges we're going to talk about. Now, there are many challenges which you normally face. So let's talk about a few, and the solution part of it. Now, first and foremost thing is around strategy. Some of the organizations lack a change management strategy, which makes implementing any new transformation difficult. That becomes a big roadblock. People have complex environment, the lay of the land. You'd be surprised that when we were doing transformation for a large organization, we ended up having 900 plus application, and it was a surprise even to the organization leader that they had that many applications in their own system. So it becomes important that you start looking at an integrated solution, your data, your customers all combined. That makes it extremely difficult. Not knowing what works and how things work makes it really difficult. Adopting to new tools and process surprisingly is a challenge. It's like having a Ferrari, but you don't know how to drive it. People do have resistance to change. It's the marathon effect. Some people like it. Some people don't know whether it's going to work for them. But some people are definitely detractors. You got to work through that. So that definitely is one of the areas which we hit a roadblock. Continuous evolution of needs. The customer needs has changed over a period of time. Keeping upbeat with it, making sure you know what's going to happen, becomes a hindrance. In a long-term transformation program. Now, strategy becomes important, but the question sometimes an organization is not able to answer is, why do they want to transform? What is their strategy? Is it changing tools? Is it changing process, or just eliminating or automating a process? But the questions need to be answered holistically. What are we trying to do? Are we trying to make these changes? What is important? What is the priority of the organization? Skill sets. Talking about skill sets, surprisingly, one of the surveys clearly called out that the organizations were not able to achieve, or 54% of the organizations were not able to achieve their goals and transformation because they did not have the right skill set. They've been in the market looking for certain people. They couldn't keep up with the attrition and all the challenges they have. And not having the skill makes it a big problem for us. Now, the three other constraints, which normally are roadblocks, but they're extremely important. One is security. Anything you bring needs to have security perspective. And when you bring a new tool, people do have apprehensions that, hey, what happens to my data? Is it set up correctly? Who will own the data? Where is the data sovereignty coming in place? Will it have breaches? So there are too many questions and concerns when it comes from people bringing new things into the system. Let's talk about money. Money, a budget to do things. Transformation is not easy. Let's accept that. And delays to transformation is even more expensive. You miss out on your ROIs, your resources work longer. So it could end up in a situation like a one step forward, two step back, which becomes a big challenge. Last but not the least, the mindset we have in the organization. Do we have a growth mindset? Or do we actually are comfortable doing the things the way they are? It's the saying they say, why fix something when it's not broken? So instead, if you're looking at change, the mindset you got to look at is that why not improve something, even if it is not broken? It's just a different way of going about things. So culture plays a lot of role in saying people, and that is a challenge most of the time, which we encounter when we try doing digital transformation for the organization. Now, we've spoken a lot about challenges. Let's talk about how do you go about it? How as an organization you can think about various pillars to address these challenges. Now, here are six key blocks which you can look at. And the six blocks come up. All right, so it's here. Now, from a building block perspective, one important aspect and where you got to start off with, look at your customers' journey. Look at how they interact with your product. Look at a clear analysis. We call it this anthropology, understanding the behavior of a person utilizing your product and what kind of influences they drive from a decision perspective. That gives you a lot of information about them. Not only that, also, while you're fixing your current processes, looking at new ways of innovating it, do not stop yourself from being future forward, or at least looking at things which make importance in coming years and invest somewhere in controlled experimentation. If you can control experimentation, I understand out of four, two might fail, but if the other two work quite well, they actually can yield you, a high competitive advantage and a lot of benefits. So it's important to have that appetite and the acceptance to failure. You may fail, but you might want to learn quickly and redo something better. That is important, and that's also ties up a lot with the organizational culture. Does your organization allow you to be agile, allow you to be flexible? Are there people who allow that, hey, let's collaborate instead of saying, hey, you do your thing, I'm going to do mine. So that is something that siloed approach which creates a problem, which we want to combine together and say, as an organization, what is that matters to us and how can we look at it at a holistic perspective? Data, I cannot emphasize enough about data. The whole attribute of data, information, knowledge, wisdom. So getting your own data, mining your data, correlating it with your processes, correlating it with your offline data, online data, combining them all together is vital. Being able to have decisions which are data driven makes it an important aspect of transformation. That also is a driver for process automation. Make sure that you look at, and we call this intelligent automation. Just because you have an RPA bot doesn't mean you do extraction of data via bot. You have data automation solution. Use the right tools at the right processes, at the right juncture, and at the right journey. If not, you're just going to apply band-aid on fracture. Domain specialization, can't emphasize on that enough, because some business require niche skills, and for you to be able to transform the skills, you got to know what that domain is. You got to know what that function does, regulatory requirements, the skill set requirements, the process requirements. So that brings a lot of value from an organizational perspective. So those are the six key blocks from a transformation standpoint. Let's hear about how normally we can keep a beat of all these changes. First and foremost thing is be aware. Be aware of your emerging trends. Be aware to what is changing in your field. From, let's say, from an customer's experience perspective, expectation perspective, what's changing? How do they use? How do they consume their product? How do they actually look at the competitors' product? Understanding your competitors gives you a better understanding of your own product. So look at how things work. How are they utilizing the services? Do you think making changes can have cybersecurity impacts? These things are important. You got to keep upbeat with what's changing in the environment. The problem you will have is that if you do not know what's changing around you, you will never be able to change within your organization. So that's important for you to be aware. Now, while you make these changes, everybody has different priorities. You will hear something from your board, what they want. You will hear something from your customers, what they want. Your functions would say something. Have a very clear capability model for your transformation. When you have everything that, hey, here's what everybody needs, be it from a board perspective, core perspective, they need transformation as a service. I need to get new model for transformation or pricing models. I got to look at how do I get new kind of talents and be innovative with getting talents. Am I meeting my regulatory requirements? Get all of these things on board so that everybody contributes to success and everybody's inputs is taken into consideration. and then go after what is right, what makes sense, prioritize, assign the right level of skill sets which require, which is a challenge, but that is extremely important. We talk about skills quite a lot, and to be honest, skill gap has been one of the biggest challenges. And some of the companies have been able to address that. They've created, a clear assessment that, hey, these are the skills I lack. Here's what I'm going to do myself. Here are the things I'm going to partner up. Here is what I'm going to build from a, internal capability perspective because I'm not getting resources outside. So they actually make investments in getting the right skills. You've got to look at how do you want to drive your change initiatives? How do you want to drive your run initiatives? So your run and change thing ideally should be different. One person should be able to work simultaneously with your business to tell them, hey, you're doing this, you're doing it fantastic, but can we look at it in a different perspective? Perhaps it can add more value. So having the right empowerment makes a lot of difference, and the right leaders at the right place gets it going. It's important to have the right change leadership team to drive your innovation and strategy. Now, from a perspective, we spoke about domain initially. Interestingly, Everest speaks quite a lot about this, saying that it's no more just, hey, making changes by process. It's no more about industry. It's an amalgamation of all of this together. You got to have clear domain-centric folks who actually understand the intricacies of the processes. They understand the complication of the processes. They know why they do it, what impacts it would have, and how they can make it better. That's why some of the folks, rely heavily on third-party providers who have expertise on that domain. And it's absolutely okay because they have built their center of excellences specifically on that area, which can help you save time and effort. So domain specialization is not to be ignored at all. Now, we spoke quite a lot about various levers of what is important to you from a digital transformation perspective. But think about this. There are two different aspects. One is the top line, you want to grow and more revenue. The other is to get your bottom line better. Now, look at both, combine them together and see what levers work best. From a growth perspective, you might want to go with pattern of business activity of your customers, how are they reaching you, what kind of product they select, what are the criteria, the experience they kind of have, what do they talk about it. Those are your drivers to be, to sell better, have more customer reach, member retention, all of that taken into consideration. But simultaneously, you need to work towards your process efficiencies. You need to work towards how do we have the economy of scale in business, getting them all together. Working them together makes a lot of difference. Now, surprisingly, we speak about agility quite a lot, but guess what? Talking about agile and being agile is two different things, completely. Ability to make changes is extremely important, and you should be flexible whenever these things come in. And that's where you can come up with new business models. Now, to my likelihood, I wish both of these things worked hand in hand when they design the digital transformation. But surprisingly, it is done separately. But an organization, if they want to transform at large scale, combining the growth levers and operational levers together can actually accelerate their growth from a transformation perspective, because that's when you can connect the inputs and the output. At the end of the day, they say, y is equal to function of x plus c. But if you want to get the desired output, know your inputs and try looking at the constants which you can apply on those. So I think that those are the levers you got to work with. Now, we speak about customer. At the end of the day, everything we do is for our customers. And guess what? Customers' experience keeps changing every time. The expectation from our business is different. They expect us to have the same experience, irrespective of when they call, where they call, or how they call. So we gotta be sure, or we very clearly need to know that how are we going to cater to the customer's demand, and what the demand is now is not going to be the demand in the next 2 years. So it's a constant evolution, and we need to capture this on an ongoing basis. So that becomes quite important. So keep a watch on your customer's experience model. Gathering inputs from them becomes vital, and that's Other way of getting that is your journeys. Now, we speak quite a lot about it, and I'm quite an advocate of making sure we follow things via customer journey. Not only just looking at the highlights, the lowlights for the customer on their journey, but also how do we cater or service to that customer? When you combine both the customer's journey and the service journey, you know what we do which causes problems. So if you want your customers to be an advocate of you, or they want you to bring in more customers or talk about you, you have to make sure that you are looking at every aspect of your business. Every aspect of your business has different journey, and how they interact is varies. So you need to map all of those things out. It's an extensive exercise, but you have tools to do that. You have the right people to do that. That way you can improve in much better pace. And that supports you doing automation, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide. Just doing, a small task automation saying, hey, you know what, I automated sending emails extraction, or I've automated extraction of my data. That's not transformation. Yes, you've enabled something, you've digitalized something, you've extracted something, but you have to look at it holistically. Look at the candidates, prioritize it, how much of an impact it has with the touch points. It is going to reduce your cycle time. Is it going to improve your efficiency, the propensity for other aspects to things? But look at those aspects. Have a clear technical assessment. Sometimes just don't do an RPA because it can it gives you, or it looks fancy. It may not be cost competitive. It may just not make practical sense. Be very clear. Have communication. Get everybody on board. Here's the challenge. Here are the issues. How do we go about it? Have you utilize industry practices. We follow Agile. We have a very clear backlog definition that, hey, here's the backlog we have. Here are the user stories we have. Here's the epics we want to go after. And there's a clear stand-up meeting which we have on a daily basis, which tells us here's what we did, here's what we plan to do, and here's what we missed from doing it. This keeps us going. And just because you've met your MVP, that does not mean it's the end of the story. You've got to change constantly and keep improving. Now, we look at maturity models. We think that, hey, let's bring in new tools and just implement that. That's not practically advisable, because every business processes have different interfaces. Some have different customers to deal with. Some might be internal, some might be external, some could be, let's say, for example, at different curves. Some may be just a newbie on this process. Some could be an expert. You need to have a very clear assessment model, understanding which team stands where on their capability. That will help you narrow down how you want to do your digital transformation and how you want to approach it. That is ideally the right way, because once you've done this assessment, you will be able to have a very clear maturity model where you stand and where you want to go. Don't forget, digitalization, and digital transformation is a journey, but you've got to start somewhere. Knowing where you are right now will help you transform better. Now, we spoke about quite a lot of things, so let me quickly do a summary about key takeaways that, hey, when you want to do something, don't forget the customers. You have to look at their journeys, look at your employees' journey. How are they interacting with each other, making sure that you get the right results. Don't buy tools, and then look for a problem. Look at a problem and then look at the right solutions to solve the problem. Don't have your run team and change team do things together. It just becomes complicated. Have a very clear change leadership team who's responsible for driving it. If you feel that you do not have the transformation skill set, have an expert. Get an expert who understands and knows the walk, and he's happy to run through with it. And that's where the domain expertise comes in place. But don't forget that your business goals and transformation goals need to be aligned. Your H1, H2, H3 cannot be completely different. It needs to be progressive. Last but not the least, be agile. Things will change no matter what. You've got to keep up with change. So, guys, thank you so much for hearing me out. Appreciate the time and the opportunity. So, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Azzy. Successful business transformation is proactive instead of responsive. It is the territory of businesses leading the charge in our industry, not simply responding to disruption. QBE is an international insurer and reinsurer with a local presence in 27 countries and headquartered in Sydney. Before we continue to our next speakers, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank our media partners, Sunstar, The Freeman, and Cebu Daily News. Thank you to our secondary sponsors, MCAV Printing, Seda Hotels, Red Root Artists, QBE Group, Shared Services Center, and our silver sponsor, JP Morgan Chase and Company. And lastly, thank you to our gold sponsors, Accenture, IONOS, Ayala Land, and Lexmark, where we are currently live. With an increasing number of users, devices, and programs in the modern enterprise, combined with the increased deluge of data, much of which is sensitive and confidential, the importance of cybersecurity continues to grow. The growing volume and sophistication of cyber attackers and attack techniques compound the challenge even further. What are the elements of cybersecurity and how does it work? Maintaining cybersecurity in a constantly evolving threat landscape is a challenge for all organizations. To keep up with changing security risks, a more proactive and adaptive approach is necessary. To better inform us regarding sustainable cybersecurity ecosystem for the IT-BPM industry is the Head of Information Security Governance and Operations of PayMaya, Mr. John Martin Encina.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. It's an honor to be with everyone. And today we are going to talk about sustainable cybersecurity for the IT-BPM industry. And before we go there, I'd really just like to introduce our company. So we are Maya. We are an all-in-one money platform that serves Filipinos across many segments in the consumers, businesses, communities, government, and agencies. So our vision, why we are here, is really to promote digital financial inclusion for everyone. And we are powered by two companies. So PayMaya Philippines, our digital payments company, and of course our newly fired up company, Maya Bank, that will provide digital banking services for a lot of people. And speaking of a lot of people, well, we are at this point, we are the number one largest payments processor for key industries with more than 635,000 points of acceptance nationwide. And we have approximately 47 million registered customers. And for our previously from our Smart Padala business, going into Maya centers, we covered 92% of the Philippines, again with more than 63,000 points of acceptance. And we are one of the 6 companies that have been licensed by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to become a digital bank in the Philippines. And very exciting new product, seamless crypto, and this is also regulated by the BSP through the Virtual Asset Service Provider License, or the VASP. Now, our vision really is to become the number one financial services ecosystem in the Philippines through our cutting-edge technology. And our mission is to empower every Filipino enterprise and consumer to participate and thrive and in the new digital economy. So just looking at that mission, I'd really like to start building my arguments for cybersecurity there, right? That at the end of the day, as IT-BPM companies, we always need to have our consumers in mind, right? And what that means is that there are times when our consumers will demand that we act with speed, we deliver awesome services, we help them we help them cut costs and make sure that they are operationalized in a very well-oiled way, right? But then there's also a balance on cybersecurity that we also need to protect their data. We also need to keep their information, customer information private. We also need to make sure that our systems don't get breached, right? So I have been asked to talk about the topic on sustainable cybersecurity, and I guess we really have to start with defining what sustainability really means. So highlighted in green in my slides are the key points, right? Meaning that for you to be considered sustainable, you have to keep on getting something operating continuously over time, that in a manner that will not deplete your resources, and making sure that it's always available and remaining available for the long term. And translating that into a cybersecurity sense is that there will always be two sides there, right? Deliver awesome customer experience and achieve your business goals on one hand, and protect customer data and prevent system breaches. Now, I want to highlight the symbolism here, right? I may have used a different graphic for this slide. Maybe it could have been a seesaw. It could have been Lady Liberty. It could have been a scale, right? But why did I use a yin and a yang? Because I want to highlight that these two things are not necessarily always equal, right? There will be compromises, but then you have to realize that it's just in one circle, right? Because yin yang recognizes that you need to combine all of these factors for you to become sustainable and really to run the organization in a way that achieves business goals, but also protects your information. And drilling down a little bit further, what are these forces that we will be talking about today? What are these things that we need to balance out whenever we think about cybersecurity? Of course, the threats will be there, which we will talk about in more detail later. And the threats are constantly evolving, right? I love when we were talking about digital transformation, that we are shifting to cloud, shifting from manual processes to automated processes. We're talking about shifting the mindset of our customers to and even our internal employees. But guess what? The threats are also doing a digital transformation themselves, right? Previously, viruses will just annoy you. They will just maybe change your files, mess up with your monitors, but then they're not here to steal. But right now, with the current threats, viruses will become very silent. They will try to steal your data and extract money from it. We're talking about ransomware. We're talking about advanced persistent threats, and malware, and all of these attacks are now state-sponsored. So we also saw a huge transformation that will affect everyone, especially in the IT-BPM industry. Why? Why are you guys targets? Because simply you're a gold mine of customer information, right? Because these attackers recognize that you will have a concentration of a lot of customer information, not just locally, but to your global customers, right? And another significant force that will drive that is driving cybersecurity are the regulations. It becomes a little bit more complicated for IT-BPM because you don't just need to comply with your local regulations, but you need to put in mind the regulations of your customers too. So it's really no longer a local play. You have to understand the entire landscape of your regulations that will cover the way that you are serving your customers, the way that you are protecting your data, right? And of course, there are specific customer demands on cybersecurity that needs to be met. They will impose certain standards on IT-BPM companies, and all of managing the first three, your threats, your regulations, and your customers require resources, right? Meaning that you will need to have adequate funding, you need to have the right technology, and you need to have the right people to help you manage your cybersecurity posture. Now, let's talk about the threats, right? So if we're talking about IT-BPM, definitely the first gold mine that you want to protect is really your customer data, because a lot of the processes that you are probably handling will involve personal information, involve sensitive information about your customers, may it be their customers, may it be probably their source code, their infrastructure. You guys are handling a lot of sensitive information, and in the bullet points here, I have listed down some of the controls that a lot of companies are implementing to protect customer data. So we're talking here about role-based access, making sure that only the appropriate people have access to the data that they need to have in order to get their work done. We're talking here about the principle of least privilege, meaning that you assign the least privilege possible to a user that will make that user do his or her own job. We're talking about data loss prevention. These are tools that help you monitor the movement of sensitive data across your organizations. Can be installed in your network or your endpoints depending on your deployment. And you can set the rules and, of course, encryption. And you need to make sure that whenever data is stored and transmitted, you make sure that there's appropriate level of encryption for that. Now, moving to the right, we need to talk about insider threats, because for IT-BPM companies, we realize that we need to actually make sure that our onboarding is fast, right? Because we have to face it, attrition is also fast, and customers will just keep coming in. And if the IT-BPM organizations lose people, it doesn't matter to the customers, right? You need to keep on maintaining your SLAs, providing them the services that you have committed. So there may be times where there are procedures in the hiring processes that could be forgotten. But then, how do you balance that, right? We're going to talk about balance throughout the entire presentation, actually. So you can do stricter background checks for key roles. You don't. There will be a baseline background check. But then, if you're giving access to an administrator, if you're giving access to someone who will be handling a lot of personal information or making decisions actually for the customers, then you will probably consider stricter background checks for them, right? Another very useful insight actually to prevent insider threats is simply keep your employees happy, right? You have to promote optimal employee engagement, make sure that you're all aligned with the company's values, and understand that each person will have a different motivation to go to work, and employee engagement, knowing your employees, making sure that the team leaders, your mentors, are giving proper guidance to the people is actually a security thing. Because it helps you understand and who your employees really are, and ergo helps you minimize the chances that you will be infiltrated by an insider threat, or someone actually good becomes an insider threat, right? That helps prevent it. And you also have to be very consistent in applying your security policies, because you don't want to get in a situation where you did something different for two situations that are actually similar, because that will put you on a very difficult dilemma later on. And very important for IT-BPM companies would be to secure your access devices, because during these times, as I mentioned, malware is really no longer addressable by your run-of-mill antivirus, right? Run-of-mill antivirus is actually free. You can download them free from the internet, but then we have to think about what malware is doing right now. It steals information, it steals data, it's financially motivated, and it's advanced. It's not something that can be easily detected these days. So detecting malware based on behavior rather than signature is actually something very standard right now, not just for the IT-BPM industry, but across everything, across everything that runs a technology stack. And you need to make sure that your baseline configurations are in check, security of your operating systems. And very important would be mobile device management, which we will actually talk about later when we talk about secure network. Because in securing your network, we're no longer talking here about doing a castle and moat. So what's a castle and moat, right? Because a castle typically holds in the center of the castle is probably your treasure. And then you have the castle as another layer of security. And you have the gates, you have the moats, you have the archers lined up at the roofs of the castle, right? That used to be the security model in the past. But right now, you realize that your treasures are really no longer inside the network. Where are they? They are in the mobile devices of your employees. They may be in phones, they may be in laptops, and we're even talking here about remote working, right? And which we have actually realized that we cannot do away with, even these times when we hopefully we're hopefully seeing COVID go away. It's returning, but hopefully we see COVID go away, right? But then what will not go away? It would be remote working. So other than securing the fundamentals of your network, like doing next gen firewalls, intrusion prevention systems, making sure that if you have APIs, make sure you put security on them so that they won't be fooled in game. But really, we need to secure access for our remote workers. Now, I wanna present a slide here saying that you see, really secure remote working is a value driver. There is a little bit of investment here, but then if you think about it, higher availability is also higher revenue. Why? Because IT BPM companies pay for downtime, right? If you don't meet your SLAs, there can be penalties. There can be losses on that side. So we have to understand what we have to understand that there needs to be investments in this space so that we ensure higher availability and we become a market and which becomes a market differentiator, right? It's really an investment. It has long-term benefits down the line. And another thing that will really help promote the case for remote working is that your top talents are probably looking for it. If you do an interview of developers, cloud infrastructure engineers, this is one of the things that always pop up in their must-haves whenever they're looking for a new company. The question is, can I remotely work? So if you want top talents, if you want people who are really who can really bring your organization to the next level, it's just something that you cannot do without. And some of the key security enablers for you to transition into secure remote working would be you don't need to remote work everyone all at once, right? You can do a role-based transition, experiment with the less risky roles first, get the technology out of the way, make perfect that, and then let's talk about security and how we can prevent breaches while at home. You need to secure your access to your application. So a few options that you can consider would be using zero trust. You can still use the VPN, but VPN is not exactly that scalable anymore with the demand of the applications because you will be limited by the bandwidth of the VPN, right? So zero trust and maybe even virtual desktops might do the job here. So experiment, not a single solution will not work for everyone. You really have to understand what works for not just for your employees, but also more importantly for your customers. That needs to be considered. You need to make sure that there's strong security in your access endpoints, meaning that the devices that that your employees are using will have acceptable levels of security, so that you don't see breaches at the endpoint that can creep into your networks and to your internal systems. And of course, one of the basic, and I say this, basic security of access would be multi-factor authentication. To me, if you have a passwords will never be enough these days, right? Every password can be cracked. It's just a matter of time. Now, but then if your password is cracked, what happen? MFA will just be a game changer. Just make sure it's the proper MFA. Right, there are a lot of implementations. There are strong and weak ones. Make sure to implement the strong ones. So I'm talking here about the app-based MFAs rather than the SMS-based MFAs. Because SMS will always have their limitations, both in availability and security. And all of these things are really not scalable. And all of these things will be put to waste if we don't have real-time events monitoring for the entire tech infrastructure. And I wanna drill down on that a little bit. What we did for Maya would be to make sure that we build a security operations center that's empowered, meaning anyone who will be at shift 24/7, and I really mean 24/7, maybe on weekends, holidays, quarantine status, it really doesn't matter. We have a SOC that will stop attacks, and they have access to do so, very empowered, quickly, anytime. And what we did was really to have a joint security, privacy, and anti-fraud response teams under a single chain of command. Because for a financial institution like us, you realize that hey, a cyber attack is also a fraud attack, which also impacts privacy. So what makes sense is to combine all of these things under one chain of command. And all of these are actually under the CISO, under our context. Well, again, not that setup may not work for all companies here, but the point is, no matter where your response teams are reporting to, you need to have them available, and you need to have them 24/7, because it doesn't matter if you're on a graveyard shift, if you're on a morning shift, mid shift. The attackers are all the time here, right? All they do is to breach your network, try to attack your systems, and get data. So it really has to be 24/7, and their service has to be under an SLA, and we measure if they are meeting our expectations for protection. And if we're talking about IT-BPM, we really cannot talk about compliance, right? We have to think about the regulations that drive the IT-BPM industry, and if we're talking about data security, we have to make sure that that compliance will be in check. Meaning, if we are compliant with PCI, if we need to be compliant with PCI DSS, GDPR, CCPA, HIPAA, and other data regulations, all of these things are not just charged to the compliance team. They have to be in the board agenda. Management has to be taking care, has to be talking about them. And guess what? They're not just talking about them, they're actually funding them and making sure that you have the right investments to make sure that you are compliant. And if we talk about policies, it really has to be a culture. And one of the great drivers how to make your policies a culture is to make sure that you have security awareness all laid out properly, which I will talk about later. And there are some customers who will demand a certain level of protection for their data. So maintaining a good talking relationship with your customers, setting the expectations, making sure that you are on the same page on the level of data protection that's expected of everyone, is a very important and key characteristic for us, for IT-BPM industries to really thrive. And I mentioned earlier about security awareness, and we have to look at security awareness really as a strategic goal, and not just really an e-learning that we take every year, right? So when I say it's a strategic goal, there's a process. There's a strategic process on how to execute it, right? You have to prepare, really understand who are my employees, what are their educational backgrounds, are they aware of security? Can I reasonably expect them to spot a phishing attack or malware if something comes? So identify those threats that are present in your organization and understand your readiness level. And very important is that when you execute your program, you have to focus on behavior change rather than just education. Two different things, right? Someone can be informed yet not do the right thing when the attack really comes. So I'd rather have someone who is not completely informed but always does the right thing whenever there's a phishing email, whenever there's a malware attack, or whenever someone just leaves a stray USB stick in your offices, right? We have to measure how people are behaving, and to measure that, a very important suggestion would really be to simulate phishing attacks. Phish your own organizations, understand how they will attack, how they will respond to a phishing attack. And believe me, there will be very interesting results out there. But then for security teams, the goal really is not to make people feel that you have outsmarted them. You have to make them feel that we are with you. So if someone gets phished, You don't need to say how you're a bad employee. Oh, you got fish. Oh, no, no, this will go to your record. Don't do that unless the employee is like failing this for the 10th time. But if it's the first time, even maybe the second, you have to support them and tell them that, hey, there are better ways to respond to this, right? Until you make them feel that security is their ally. And security is not just the police who will call out every single wrong action that they will do. And for Maya, the good result is that our security awareness really translated into real security. So last year we put in more than 1,000 hours of training, and as a result, if you go to the right, 3 out of 4 of our employees actually reported phishing email and simulated phishing within 1 hour of receipt. And throughout the year, we've had zero. Actually, for 2 years already, we've had zero successful malware and phishing attack. And for the consumer side of things, we have engaged our users also through our fraud patrol program, and we've reached more than 500,000 customers using that program. And because of that, flex ko lang, is that we have been awarded during the Privacy Awareness Month as the winner for the Privacy Initiative of the Year under the hashtag Fraud Patrol, which is our security awareness program. And we're also the finalist for the Privacy Management Program of the Year and finalist for the Data Protection Officer of the Year. So interesting times. Thank you for that applause. Maybe you're asking now, so all of this has cost, right? How do I justify? This is it. We have to understand that cybersecurity is really an investment, because better cybersecurity is a market differentiator. And what that means is that if you have the right cybersecurity controls in place, you have the right protection mechanisms, the reality is you get better customers, right? The reality is that you are able to attract customers who you can really partner with and have a long-term sustainable partnership with. And you also understand that the cost of breach is not just limited to the breach itself, because if you're breached and your name, your organization's name is publicized, that's it. It will have future implications from negative perception, and the cost of acquiring customers will be higher, right? So it really has a far-reaching implications. And you also understand that your own customers right now will have a very high awareness of cybersecurity and privacy. They are more conscious, they are more demanding, and it's not just the customers, also the regulators. Regulations will just get stricter. That's for sure. That's really for sure. And it will not just be local, it will be international and global. And what are the challenges that we need to face? So that cybersecurity is a very big domain. So again, secure your most valuable assets first. Understand which ones need protection, and prevent the breaches that will instantly put you out of business. That's really the first thing to look at. So cybersecurity talent is scarce. Yes, it is, but there are options. You can outsource cybersecurity. There are options to go for a virtual CISO. There are also companies offering managed security services that will provide SOC, that will provide security services for the core companies. And it's true that the IT-BPM industry will have a high people turnover that will require fast onboarding. And as I mentioned earlier, we can prioritize, right? We can identify roles that will require stricter background checks, and we can also do background check. We can also provide access to data in phases. You can't, it's possible to not give everything all at once, right? You first have to test out whether we can trust this person, and then expand the access eventually once we're more comfortable in doing that. And of course, I mentioned about pricing, right? Pricing for the industry is very competitive. For IT-BPM, as mentioned, there are a lot of competition there's a lot of competition out there. But then, if you wisely spend for cybersecurity, prioritize spending, again, you will attract good customers that you really want to work with, and the hosts who appreciate cybersecurity. So it's always a balance. It's always something you always have to think about what will work for in the long term. And sometimes really you have to give up short-term gains in order to have long-term value, right? I want to end my presentation by quoting Nelson Mandela, saying that freedom is meaningless without security at home and in the streets, right? It's really always a balance between freedom and security. And thank you for having me. This is Jan from Maya.
Thanks, John. The process of keeping up with new technologies, security trends, and threat intelligence is challenging but manageable. PayMaya is the only end-to-end digital payment ecosystem enabler in the Philippines, with platforms and services that cut across consumers, merchants, communities, and government. It's been a good afternoon so far, and our final talk is something that hits home. The Philippines Information Technology and Business Process Management, or the IT-BPM sector, is one of the best performing and employment-generating activities in the country. PEZA Law, or Republic Act No. 7916, or the Special Economic Zones Act of 1995, requires that all registered companies operate within the ecozones in order to enjoy tax incentives. The allowance of 90-10 work from home setup was just a temporary measure during the pandemic. What's the latest on the Philippine IT-BPM industry? To speak about the topic is the President and CEO of the Information Technology and Business Process Association of the Philippines, or IBPAP, Mr. Jack.
Thank you very much, DJ, and thank you for CIBO for the opportunity to speak about the IT-BPM industry. Good afternoon, everyone. The global IT-BPM industry had quite a spectacular 2021, one of the highest growth periods in the history of the industry. Growth for headcount was between 11 and 12%, while the growth rate for revenues was anywhere between 13 and 15%. In actual numbers, that translates to 8.4 to 8.6 million FTEs and between 242 to 247 billion in gross revenue. This was on account of several factors. There was an increasing acceptance and interest towards the outsourcing or offshoring for organizations looking to improve efficiency and drive down cost. Even regulated industries such as banking and healthcare, which have been traditionally reluctant to do offshore or even nearshore work, have now become much more open to the concept after their positive experience in the past 2 years. This sustained growth of our industry, both globally and locally, will be defined by several factors. Increased reliance on offshoring and outsourcing, for example, will be spurred by next generation business models and assets, the talent and skills shortage, as well as competitive pricing models. Expansion across select horizontals and verticals, as well as increased digital adoption by traditional players, will also be key drivers for growth in 2022 and beyond. More and more companies in global business services are also incorporating offshoring and outsourcing in their strategic initiatives to improve efficiencies and optimize cost in multiple geographies. I'd now like to speak about the Philippine IT-BPM industry, and I am happy to say that we had an extremely strong 2021. The number of Filipino employees increased by 120,000 last year, bringing the total industry headcount to 1.44 million and registering a growth of 9.1% compared to 2020. In terms of revenue, we ended the year with $29.49 billion US dollars. That represents a 10.6% jump over the previous year. This double-digit growth attests to what we had been projecting. 2021 was not just a recovery, it was a resurgence for our industry here in the Philippines. Preserving jobs, generating new opportunities, stimulating countryside development, driving more investment, and creating demand for property. These are the unequivocal contributions of our industry to nation building. Not only did 2021 exceed the forecasted growth for the year, it also eclipsed the recalibrated 2022 targets of 1.3 million headcount and 29 billion in revenue. This impressive upsurge can be attributed to pent-up demand from global clients, higher confidence in work from home and hybrid work arrangements in both contact centers and business process services, as well as growth in emerging subsegments such as e-commerce, fintech, and healthcare. The industry routinely showcases its driving force in terms of investment, employment, and real estate. According to our partners at the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, IT-BPM is their second largest sector, accounting for over 328 billion pesos in investment. That's over 12.3% of the total investments received by PEZA. This sector also generated almost 1 million jobs within PEZA-registered sites. Data from the Department of Labor and Employment show that IT-BPM consistently ranks among the leading industries offering jobs nationwide. And the most in-demand roles include those in customer service, IT, data analytics, finance, and healthcare BPO. IT and computer software almost doubled the number of hiring when compared to 2020. Accordingly, compensation also showed an increase of 23% in 2021. As disclosed by our partners, Lichu Property Consultants, the sector remains the fundamental catalyst of the real estate industry, accounting for 153 square meters for demand in the first half of 2022. Leveraging on the immense potential of countryside locations and talent is something that our industry is renowned for. With the goal of expanding beyond the NCR, IBPAP launched Digital Cities 2025 in partnership with the Department of Information and Communications Technology and Lichu Property Consultants. Through the program, 24 areas were chosen based on their potential to become thriving business districts that support the IT-BPM ecosystem. Each of these locations were carefully assessed using a set of criteria reflecting the priorities of investors and locators, such as cost, quality of business environment, infrastructure, and the availability of talent. 14 cities in total out of the 25 have already launched their respective roadmaps. And these cities recently participated in a marketing session where partners were able to give them some guidance on how they can move forward with their strategic imperatives. This will be then followed with a business matching event to help them build partnerships with select IT-BPM companies. Cebu is a very important territory for the industry, and it has been consistently considered a center of excellence through the Next Wave Cities program that we began in 2009. This means that Cebu is considered as an established IT-BPM hub with proven capabilities in marketing its strengths, attracting major locators, and sustaining a healthy growth rate of hosted operations. Presently, it lays claim to a booming real estate sector. The IT-BPM industry also has a significant presence in Cebu, as it harbors 300 IT-BPM companies and over 200,000 employees. Key players include Concentrix, Teleperformance, T-Tech, JP Morgan Chase, IBM, Optum, EXL, and of course, Wipro. This does not come as a surprise, given that Cebu is a center of education and instruction. It is home to quite a number of renowned universities and schools that help produce an average of 50,000 graduates annually. In terms of digital infrastructure, Cebu has been a hotbed of expansion for fiber connectivity and 5G wireless technology. Globe, PLDT Smart, Converge, and Dito all have significant presence here. PLDT recently completed its fiber connection in central Philippines, connecting the provinces of Cebu, Marinduque, Romblon, Catanduanes, Masbate, Panay, Samar, Bohol, and Negros to the rest of the country. This enabled PLDT to become even more resilient and ready to support digital services such as 5G. Homes and businesses can now avail of fiber-to-home connectivity. This project is part of the group's sustained investments in their network, and network-related initiatives made up the bulk of their multi-billion spend for 2021. And during this year, PLDT will expect to invest between 76 to 80 billion in capex. For Globe, it continues to expand its 5G wireless technology across the country, including Cebu. The following provinces are part of Globe's 5G expansion: Rizal, Cavite, Batangas, Bulacan, Davao, and Misamis Oriental. Globe's 5G network now covers 95% of the NCR's population and 84% of Visayas and Mindanao. Globe's investment of 338 million to build new cell sites in 26 schools here in Cebu as part of its partnership with the Department of Education. This is intended to support online learning with initiatives targeting 30,000 students and 1,600 teachers. Its investment of 92.8 billion in capex in the past year will be enhanced by a further allocation of 89 billion for its accelerated 5G rollout, for new cell sites, and an upgrade of existing sites to 4G LTE, and to ramp up their fiber rollout nationwide. In the past year, Converge also celebrated a major milestone by expansion of its fiber cable and connectivity in the Visayas and in Cebu. Its multi-billion peso investment in the Visayas is a signal of its commitment to provide the very best fiber broadband services in the market. They are building a network that will be high availability, non-blocking, and low latency. And this is on top of the data center facilities that Converge is bringing to the Cebu region as well as the rest of Visayas. Converge continues to invest heavily in Cebu. Its capex in 2022 of up to 28 billion will be higher than the previous year. And the bulk of that is allocated to fund the expansion of access network nationwide and a further extension of the fiber backbone. Dito was launched in Cebu in 2021 and currently present in 30 cities in the province of Cebu. Supply chain resilience from a talent standpoint will be critical in this intensifying global war for talent. This has been exacerbated by higher attrition rates and growing requirements for digital skills that include data analytics, cybersecurity, and machine learning, as well as skills like software development, 3D animation, and medical coding. In a 2022 study by our research partner, the Everest Group, it's supported the fact that the talent demand and supply gap continues to widen. And this was why we see employers struggling to be able to attract and retain talent. Furthermore, pandemic-related disruptions increased this mismatch of talent demand and supply for entry-level and higher skill niche roles in IT, digital, and healthcare. As a response, companies are refocusing on upskilling and reskilling through specialized programs. They are also investing in new technologies to surface skills and connect employees with opportunities. In addition, more organizations have started looking for talent in non-traditional places and are now even taking advantage of the growing gig economy. A further look into the growing demand for emerging and specialized skills show that each of the subsectors will have to prioritize different things. Animation, contact center, game development, healthcare, IT services, and shared services have unique future requirements and must therefore provide targeted upskilling and reskilling initiatives. Industry stakeholders have embarked on a number of talent attraction and development initiatives to create an ecosystem that is sustainable, adaptable, and competitive. The efforts of individual companies, the different subsectors, and IBPAP have to work hand in hand in enabling the industry to pivot to more complex and higher value services. And among the initiatives that are being implemented are upskilling programs that provide access to courses and certifications to promote continuous learning and workforce development. Workshops or competency building sessions led by experts on domain, digital, and leadership skills to develop the capabilities of the existing workforce. And webinars which serve as a platform for information and knowledge sharing among practitioners and thought leaders on perspectives and best practices on critical themes and topics. IBPAP is likewise utilizing avenues to connect with the right people, kindle their interest, and encourage them to join our growing industry. We have established a unique talent development framework for industry building that is in line with the national upskilling and reskilling program. Once this has been scaled and rolled out, it will enable skills development and lifelong learning for 1 million Filipinos in the next 5 years. The integration of hybrid work models in business strategies will also become more prevalent. Globally, 70% of IT-BPM enterprises are saying that they will be implementing hybrid work arrangements. Locally, 80% of our employees have expressed an overwhelming preference for a hybrid work model before and over returning fully on site. Location diversity has also become a priority in the aftermath of the pandemic. Given this, companies will need to leverage off alternative locations and adopt small-scale centers or microsites to achieve more robust business continuity plans. Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities will find greater opportunity as more organizations look to optimize cost, improve talent strategies, and reduce dependency on large Tier 1 hubs through decentralization. From this, it stands to reason that the hub and spoke model will continue to be practiced by the industry. Some are already progressing towards the hub, spoke, and satellite model, which is the usage of satellites and work from home or work from anywhere to reduce delivery portfolio concentration and also respond to the growing clamor of employees to work near their homes and their families. The future of the IT-BPM industry will be dependent on the country's ability to take advantage of emerging trends and circumvent mounting threats on a global and local scale. A sustainable talent supply, predictable regulatory environment, and more enabling infrastructure are just some of the top considerations of potential investors and locators that the Philippines will have to nurture and support. We need to address the serious lack of future-ready digital talent coming from the graduate pool and employees in the existing workforce. An increase in allocation of government budget is also needed for talent and skills development. We also need to develop and roll out higher education curricula oriented towards building digital skills. We need to improve the ease of doing business with a more investment-friendly policy and regulatory environment. The push for the enactment of legislation that supports the industry includes the amendment of portions of the PEZA law and the implementing rules and regulations of CREATE to allow long-term and permanent work-from-home setup. We also need to prioritize the creative industry bills. The country's deficient digital infrastructure is the third area for improvement. We need to accelerate the digital infrastructure development by making it a priority mandate of DICT. We need to enlist the support of private sector players in the digital infrastructure space by providing special fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. Lastly, we also need to expand fiber connectivity to more residential areas and provinces with significant talent pool availability. To help in these very important endeavors, IBPAP is set to publish our Roadmap 2028, which is the Philippine IT-BPM industry's blueprint for the goals, the metrics, and the objectives, and the strategies for our industry to grow over the next 6 years. This will include priorities in digitization, talent, policy shaping, digital infrastructure, and country branding for the next 6 years. The launch of our roadmap is indeed very timely because 2022 is already a banner year for the industry. Not only are we welcoming a new administration, we are also at the precipice of a new age that will reimagine, rethink, and re-envision everything that we know about our industry. To give justice to Roadmap 2028, we will be launching the IT-BPM industry's flagship event, the International Innovation Summit, in September. This will be the first time in 3 years that we will have a face-to-face component, and we hope to see everyone there. Again, I want to thank our partners in Cebu and CIBO for giving me this opportunity at IBPAP to speak about the state of our industry. I wish you a very successful event and a good afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack. The Philippines' global leadership in voice-based services, as well as continuing improvements in non-voice and complex process management, show the promising growth trajectory of the IT-BPM sector. To be able to cement its position in the global IT-BPM sector, the Information Technology and Business Process Association of the Philippines, or IBPAP, is advocating for deeper policy reforms which will support employees' skills development and maintain a competitive business environment for the industry. Before we proceed, we would also like to extend our gratitude to Red Root Artists Cooperative as our official technical partner for the 2022 Transformation Summit. Red Root is a multi-awarded and youth-led cooperative in the Philippines. For almost 14 years, Red Root has been at the forefront of creating innovative projects ranging from museum modernization, 3D projection mapping, virtual galleries and hybrid events, video production, learning management systems, renewable energies, and technology integration. To know more about Red Root, contact them at 0282830883 or through email info@redroot.coop. Since we opened the second day of the Transformation Summit and Expo, a team of people started mining excellent questions coming from our viewers in Zoom. We're at that interesting point in which our next level speakers can further share their thoughts and insights through questions asked by our viewers. We'd like to thank again our media partners, Sunstar, The Freeman, Cebu Daily News, Our secondary sponsors: MCAV, Printing, Seda Hotels, Red Root Artists, and QBE Group Shared Services Center. Thank you to JP Morgan Chase and Company, our silver sponsors, and our gold sponsors: Accenture, IONOS, Ayala Land, and Lexmark. And so for today's panel discussion, let me now turn over the proceedings to our moderator, the Executive Director of CIB.O, Mr. Buddy Villasis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the open forum and panel discussion of today's session. We are honored to have with us highly esteemed guests led by the Honorable Mayor of Cebu City, Mayor Michael Rama. We have
Yes, buddy. Good
Pierre,
afternoon.
Pauline, Yrastorza, General Manager of IONOS Philippines. We also have Mr. Shaikh, Senior Vice President for Transformation of QBE Global Services. Mr. John Martin Encina, Head of Information Security Governance and Operations of Paymaya, and Mr. Jack Madrid, President and CEO of IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines. Both of these guys are broadcasting from their headquarters in Manila. And of course, joining us from the WIPRO Broadcast Center is the President of CIB.O and Country Head of WIPRO Philippines, Mr. Asim Roy. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Q&A portion of today's session. Let's start
Good
with the lady.
afternoon.
Hi, Pauline. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, buddy. How are you?
Cool. That's cool.
afternoon, everyone.
As the Philippines IT-BPM industry expands, no, given your comprehensive assessment of the opportunities in Cebu in your presentation, and with more investors coming to Cebu, it will surely be a war for talents in the long run. Thus, immediate plans of partnering with the academe to ensure that future graduates are equipped with the skills in entering the doors of your company, at least.
Sure, absolutely, buddy. As a matter of fact, we have already started such programs with different schools via donations of computers of their classrooms. We started on it 2 years ago prior to the pandemic. We want to be able to help such institutions to have the equipment to impart the skills, the knowledge for our future workforce here in Cebu. And I'd like to, share as well that IONOS is very committed to continue to partner with the schools who are in need as part of our corporate social responsibility.
What is IONOS stand on the current hybrid setup approved by PESA, and what would be its next plan after September? Do you think the whole thing will work for you, Pauline?
This is a very, interesting topic, buddy. Actually, IONOS is very supportive with the hybrid setup. It is a welcome move for all of us. On the other side of things, we are more than ready after September 22 implement the full return to office as ordered by PESA. Actually, what happened is that during the pandemic, we did fit out for our site. We did 100% renovation to ensure that we have a world-class environment for our people. We are actually 100% ready for back-to-work setup, even this hybrid proposal. So if there will be any changes in the future, definitely IONOS will be very supportive on the flexible working arrangement.
I believe we are getting a lot of support from the legislators. Some of our senators have been trying to advocate also hybrid work arrangement, and we are primarily looking at a lot of good things coming our way, especially with the advocacy of IBPAP the national level. Hi, John. How are you?
Doing great. How are you, buddy?
Oh, that's cool, huh? So Maya is getting popular these days, and you did a comprehensive discussion on what's needed by the industry to be adopted in general relative to external dealing with external threats. No, today, identity theft, phishing, others are prime cybersecurity threats that we all have to deal with, no, as individuals and as companies as well. And I wouldn't dwell on the big picture because you made a comprehensive presentation earlier as to how we'll deal with it. But given us growing market generation people in industry primarily, and savings accounts with Maya.
Buddy, sorry, can you just try to repeat the question? You were cutting in out a little bit on the last part.
How safe is my wallet and savings account with Maya? That's
How
a general
safe?
question, not just for me.
Sure. So how safe? So basically, this is how we do it in Maya. We don't rely on a single defense to actually protect the entire infrastructure. So what we do would be to implement defenses at different layers. So even before when you download your Maya app, we will have to make sure that you are installing it on a real phone, meaning that we need to make sure that your phone is clean, and we need to understand that that device is not a hacking device where our app is installed, and when you log in to your account, we'll have to make sure that that's you. So there will be multi-factor authentication. You'll have to present your password that's tied up to your account. And when you are sending transactions, send money and some of other high value transactions, we will also require you to do an OTP so that we make sure that the ones holding the phones are actually the account holders. So that's on the front end side, but on the back end side, there's just a lot of security stuff that we have put in there. So we make sure that our perimeter is secure. We have implemented a lot of controls to make sure that our network doesn't get breached. Other than that, we want to make sure that the applications itself is actually hardened. So we have a discipline in Maya called DevSecOps. Before it used to be DevOps, right? Meaning that it's really a combination of the developers and the operations. But then there's a third wheel that came into that called Sec, or the security, right? So we want to make sure that whenever we start building a product, security is way at the start. We don't just remember security whenever we're about to deploy the product. So we want to make sure that security is in the code, it's in the infrastructure, and all the way until the products are released. So we work closely with our product and tech teams to make sure that the resulting product of our development process is actually secure, and it will be very hard to crack. And we're also PCI DSS compliant. We audit ourselves every year, and we certify ourselves every year, so that we make sure that we are industry grade, because we are an issuer and acquirer of debit cards.
Wow, thank you, John. I believe at least the people who are with us in the platform are assured as to where we should be heading. Maya, I think, has been encouraging people to also trade in cryptocurrency. No? You can. I noticed you can trade crypto by your PayMaya account, and that's a cool opportunity for every Filipinos to invest in a small amount of money using their their Maya account. Mayor Mike, how are you, Mayor Mike?
I'm very fine, still within the platform, listening to Mr. Buddy Villas.
I believe your presentation earlier was complemented by some slides by from Miss Pauline Yrastorza of IONOS, and of course,
Yeah.
some industry forecast from Mr. Jack Madrid. Can we have a few lines from you relative to where we should be heading?
Pauline knows me when I was invited in IONOS, and I was very much appreciative, buddy, that they have come and they're to upfront already in their aggressiveness in terms of getting into continuously in the city of Cebu and bringing its what we call expertise, not only in Cebu but everywhere in the world, and thereby my being present. In fact, right now I am with Congressman Rama, who used to be our, shall we say, focal person in the city government when it comes to C.O, even during June sub-as time when it comes to this area of discipline. So it can be assured, buddy, that with the prospect, and I am very, shall we say, thankful on Pauline and the IONOS bringing all those beautiful tomorrow in terms of this discipline. And I am around the city government. We are around to be of service. And precisely, I would like to sit down with you, perhaps, Asim, and the usual participant in our convergence platform in addressing concern in the city of Cebu, way back pandemic, then vaccination, Odette and Agaton, and now to be part of our Singapore-like Cebu City. So we will be at your service.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Mike. I believe we are tasked to work with you in the long run, considering the targets that we are trying to hit, and we are facing a lot of challenges in Cebu. We look forward to a lot of good things, and we intend to work well with the city government. Thank you very much. Shaikh, how are you?
Buddy.
Mr. Shaikh, Asi.
I'm doing
How are
good,
you, Azhar?
thank you, buddy. Yeah, I'm good. It's funny that people pronounce my name as Azi because my name is Azhar, and in Arabic it
Cool.
means thoughtful, but in Tagalog it could be Nakaka Asar, which is annoying. So yeah, I go by Azi.
Yeah, that's good. We're glad to have you around, Asi. QBEA has been a very good partner of SIB.O in all our advocacies, and we continue to work well with you guys in the long run. No? So everybody wants to do digital transformation. Actually, it was in the news that Nacon, with all they're giving up their DSLR, their SLR businesses, and wanted to do digital, to move on into digital in the long run. So that's going to be a top call, and for every company to do that, of course, it's going to cost some money. How costly is digital transformation for a company? Did QBE almost lose an arm or a leg when you went into digital transformation?
Right. So just to set some context, digital transformation is a boardroom agenda for all the CEOs or all the C-level folks. It won't cost you arm and leg, to be honest, if you plan them properly. It's just that it's a progress. You have to start small. It's a jigsaw puzzle, to be honest. It's like a Lego block. You start build your foundations and add things to it. the challenge some of the companies we see is that if you are, the older you are, the legacy applications you carry or the legacy tools you carry, that's when you get encounter challenges. But we've been able to overcome that, and I think that's the advice we always give to folks, that think about it from a long-term perspective. It's not a single single size fits all or overnight solution. You have to think about it from a long-term perspective. That's how you can achieve results.
Thank you, Asi. I think what works for QE may not necessarily work for IONOS, something like that, no?
Correct.
What works for may not necessarily work for the left hand. But how do you know whether digital transformation is working for your business organization or not?
I think there are three aspects to it. We call this as ABC of experience. Either your agent's experience, your business experience, and your customer's experience. If you see an increase in your growth, you see an increase in your customer satisfaction. If you see an increase in your employee satisfaction, it definitely, your investments in digital transformation are definitely paying off. Your operating costs, your balance sheet tells you very clearly that the investments you've made are paying off or not. So I think keeping all of these things in mind tells you whether you are making the right investments at the right place and whether there's a return of investment of those or not.
But can I just add to what he said, because I think it's important to note also that you don't just go digital transformation just for the sake of digital transformation, right? You have to have a goal in mind. Just like security, you have to understand what you're trying to achieve. Because if you automate something that's messy, it will just be 10 times as messy when you go down the automation path, right? So you have to understand what the metrics are first before you even go down the journey, because it will be very hard for a company, because that's what will cost you an arm and a leg if you automate and you don't necessarily know why you're automated, and you're just doing and you're just because you're FOMO or you have a fear of missing out. That's why you're automating.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, because most of the time when we look at processes, tools, and technology, people buy tools first and then try to look for a problem, instead of looking for a problem and then looking at, do we have the right tools and technology available? And the same goes true for the processes too, because you can't just retrofit that, hey, let me just fix this part of the portion, but you need to look at holistically that, hey, can I actually automate the whole process, or can I just have it self-service? It should not even happen. In that way, if you do, you're not applying a band-aid to fracture. If not, you're just going to add cost on, over cost. You have to run your old tools. You are adding bot on the existing tool. It just makes it super expensive to run any kind of businesses.
Wow, that's a major concern for industries actually. They wanted to do digitalization, but of course, budget is a primary thing, and it has to be taken care of by management carefully. No, one question from one question came in for Mayor Mike on the chat box. How will our local government of Cebu City address the immediate solution regarding the scarcity of transportation, especially during nighttime to early dawn? So we're talking about the night crawlers, Mayor. We have in our industry, we have a lot of people who are alive at night, and primarily we're having a dilemma in public transport.
Yeah, that's a very good concern, and I've been informed about it. And in fact, I'm with Congressman Rama, and he had reminded me, buddy, of which I have to convene, of that ordinance that brings in the participation of this part of the equation in as far as business process management. But what is important, is I would like to right now, I will have to be calling after this to bring Councilor James Cuenco and Chairman Coco Olganza in terms of bringing this issue about transportation, and that belongs to the committee of James Cuenco. And thereby, every time there is scarcity, I usually, and we already have a template body, ought to be, but it is more on a certain time, but it does not extend in the evening. So adjustment has to be done just for us to respond to the concern of this sector. And I will be bringing it as a real concern, address it actively, buddy.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Mike. We are at least assured, and of course, with the presence of Councilor James Cuenco tomorrow as one of the primary speakers in the afternoon session, I believe he will have a comprehensive plan already as to where we should be heading on how to address this primary concern. We highly appreciate your...
if you don't mind, I remember having this concern before, and I was looking at it from the point of view of perhaps a consortium, whereby you're talking about within the IT area, and we talk about how many are employees constituting within the group. Number two, if the whole group perhaps can help also the city, while the city address the general, then the group that constitute the CEOs, every, if I may have to ask, buddy, in the IT area, how many, shall we say, ICT, shall we say, business process management companies do you have right now?
In IT Park alone, if you mean, I think we are looking at least 75 to 100 companies in IT Park and Business Park alone, Mayor.
Yeah, because I'm bringing a concept actually, which brings in the private corporation with a public corporation like, no? Whereby we are gearing towards Singapore-like, and it can even be Taiwan-like, or whatever available globally that we would like to bring in to the city of Cebu. And I was looking at in solving problem. In solving problem, usually my orientation since I was a kid, it's always barangayan, bayanihan, and voluntarismo. Second, when I became your public servant since 1992, I also brought in the philosophy, which is people privately driven governance. Second, the advocacy of barangayan, bayanihan, and voluntarismo. And the ideology of, I call it social democrats, where people really is my primary concern. Under the Latin maxim of Vox Populi Vox Dei, the voice of the people is the voice of God. So how I wish, buddy, that I can probably bring in, and it doesn't have to be me anymore, but Asim is around. Roy, are you still around?
Yes. So, Mayor, thank you for that suggestion. In fact, I was just about to butt in a bit. I think the challenge that the industry, at least in Cebu, is facing is transport at night. So, if there can be something done to kind of incentivize or promote jeepney operators, taxis to ply at 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. onwards, that can be a great boost to kind of bit of bringing in a recovery as far as the transport is concerned. Because what we are hearing from across the industry is the non-availability of transport at odd hours, at late hours, which used to be pretty much BAU pre-pandemic. So I think The solution can be pretty much lying within this group itself, or possibly some kind of incentivization that we can do for jeepney and taxi operators.
That's very well said, Mr. President. And that's why I would be looking at on something innovative, because we're talking now of transfiguration, which I also would wish bringing conversion to certain innovations in terms of addressing concerns that serves the public. That it should not only be coming from the public itself, which is the government, but rather, like what you have suggested, the operator should be involved, and even the whole industry should also be a part of. Because I remember very well, because when I have become a lawyer, and then even if I was already in government, even before I became mayor, I was handling corporation body. And the corporation that I've been handling actually are mostly Japanese. And they're very strict when it comes to, we call it punctuality. And such an issue of punctuality, I have to bring to the Japanese principals that if we take on being so strict on punctuality and we don't provide transportations, we'll end up losing the best. We will end up losing the best. And I brought them to a Taiwan setup, of which I was a councilor. And the mayor that I had,
Mayor Mike.
we bought that setup.
This is, I believe, public-private collaboration, and we should work well with the industry. Must work with the local government on this to address the concern. Jack, we're looking at, I'm not sure what happened to President Asim. Anyway, we're looking at a lot of growth of the country's IT-BPM industry, and especially the projected roadmap that we are trying to work out. No? Could you give us a quick walkthrough of where we should be going in the roadmap? I mean, what's in store for us in the upcoming roadmap that we are trying to work on, especially with the new administration?
Well, I think there are a number of challenges that we need to hurdle in order to meet our industry's growth targets. As I mentioned in my presentation, we grew as a country 145,000 new jobs for Filipinos during the 2 years of the pandemic. In 2021 alone, that was a 10.6% growth. Interestingly, the global industry growth was even higher. And I want to mention this because this is important. It was one of the first few times that the Philippines' growth rate actually lagged the global growth rate. I mean, 10.6% is pretty good. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that it could have been even more. And so this points to, the three challenges that I always like to talk about, that will be part of the roadmap that we will be publishing in September. Number one, I think the lack of digital-ready talent is probably our biggest challenge, and I'm happy to see that the early signs from the new administration recognize this talent gap, because there are a lot of jobs that could be created if we address the new digital skills that are required by our global customers. So we will continue to work closely with the academe, but I think the private sector needs to play an even more active role in helping us match the global skills required with what our academe and what our customers, what the academe needs to include in their curriculum. Second, this has been discussed extensively in this conference so far. we need to even strengthen the digital infrastructure across the country. The pandemic saw big improvements. That's how we were able to migrate over 1 million people from on-site operations to their homes, and the speed that we were able to move, Filipino workforce across the country that quickly was something that we can all be proud of, because a lot of our customers in the beginning did not believe that was achievable, and I think that experience, what we've all experienced, is that most of our jobs in the IT-BPM industry can be delivered and performed very effectively from our homes. And what has happened is even more interesting, is that more and more companies in North America and Europe are now willing to offshore some of the work that maybe they did not think that they would offshore or provide outside their region. But because of the positive experience from the pandemic, proving that Filipino talent could deliver work from their homes without any sacrifice in productivity or customer satisfaction, I think fueled more growth and pent-up demand for talent. However, the Philippines and India are no longer the only providers of these services. There are emerging competitors, in non-traditional BPO regions. And what is also worrisome, which brings me to my third point, is the enlightened legislation that we need to allow more work flexibility, because the future of work has already happened. And that future points to a hybrid work setup. An overwhelming majority of our workforce expects a hybrid work setup, as high as 80 to 90%. And if we do not heed the voice of the employees, we will even exacerbate the risk of this talent and demand mismatch. So it's a complex issue. It's a sensitive issue, but it is something that we must face if we are to grow the industry, the way that we hope to, and create more jobs for Filipinos in the next 6 years. So I see no reason why 2022 will not match 2021. 8 to 10%, I think would be a reasonable projection, but certain things have to be in place, and that would be, as I said, continued availability of talent, digital infrastructure across our archipelago, and last but not least, we need to make it easier to do business in our country with more forward-looking hybrid work setup, and many of our regions, our competitor regions are leading the way and providing more flexible work environments. So sorry for the very long answer, buddy, but you asked a very good and tough question.
I think I missed out on that tough question, Jack. So I'm back.
Basically, I talked about the industry, opportunities and challenges.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. President, you help me interpolate with Jack.
Yeah, buddy, can you say that again, please?
Let me interpolate with Jack, because I believe as an industry player, you are more in the position to share views, and being one of the largest employers in Cebu and with several sites in the Philippines, I believe Wipro can contribute well to where we should be heading.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have shared this convergence between us, the CIBO position, the Wipro position, and with IBPAP, which is more of a national organization managing our BPO affairs and IT affairs. I think one key difference that I think Jack also called out was the policies at play. and the governance at play. So I think, where we look at the last 2 years, barring aside the typhoon Odette, which kind of was a natural calamity, I think general management of whole pandemic was much, much superior in Cebu. There was a clear-cut guidelines on what is a GCQ. I don't remember that more than 2 months that we were in ECQ. So honestly, that created an environment where if you look at it, when I look at the overall country numbers, where we did almost 10 to 12% growth, I'm sure when you look at the Cebu numbers, we are actually in much more in excess of 20 to 25% growth in the last 2 years. So that is also part of the governance of, a big thank you to the mayor and the provincial government as well on how they manage the pandemic. I think that sets the tone as an investor to feel comfortable that, digital disruption happened in 2020. We all know what happened, right? So there was a learning there. The key is that after that learning, do we improve? So that's a different topic, but at least at this point of time, I'll say, the overall management, barring aside the first few days or weeks of March 2020, we were generally much more resilient through the different waves of pandemic. The learning is more now from the infrastructure. The second part is the infrastructure, and I think everybody is touching upon that. You need the digital infrastructure. But it's also important that the digital infrastructure is affordable. Today, the cost of data, even if it is made available, is far more costly than some of our competition. And this is not a Cebu-specific issue, right? It's a 20, 40 GB data here in Philippines can cost in excess of 1,500 peso. And similarly, a similar kind of data in another country can actually cost you almost 300 peso, right? So that's a big difference that you have to kind of bridge, because it is linked to remote working. It is linked to work from home setup. It is linked to digital learning. So I think that's one area that we definitely need support and prioritization from the industry, from our telcos. That's other thing that I feel. Thirdly, I think from overall ramp-up numbers, Cebu remains for companies like us, for Lexmark and a few other players, I'm sure, IONOS, it remains the strategic location for us, right? So we found love in Cebu. It's practically, that's what I can say, that, even 10 years back, 14 years back, when the whole world knew Philippines more because of Manila, we set up our regional operations in Cebu. Even that time, I think we thought that Cebu, Manila was possibly more congested, and Cebu had a great infrastructure, connectivity, international airport, a talent pool, I think, and the general work culture. It has been extremely cohesive, extremely welcoming as an investor. So I think those are the softer aspects which have got us here. Possibly the next phase is more difficult, more challenging, that will involve investment in people's skills and not just the behaviors and the culture. I think that's where, transformation, that's where digitization, that's where more and more focus on education. Education not at the K+12 level, the education right at the, a grade 3, a grade 4 kind of levels. How do you strengthen some of the ecosystem around ICT? ICT is just not getting on a YouTube, or ICT is not about making a PPT presentation. So I think that kind of, and most important is that some of our organizations very strongly believe, while you train the students, while you train the agents, it's equally important to train the trainer and train the teachers, right? So they can have a huge impact. So I think there's a need to invest in institutions which build who train great trainers, who invest in teachers who can possibly train more people, educate more people on skills which are relevant for the industry. So I think we stay bullish. We are extremely excited to be in Philippines. We are too excited to be in Cebu, a place which is like a strategic location for us. It's our regional headquarters. And I think somewhere, in the larger scheme of things, I think Jack also put across the resilience in-country BCP. A lot of our growth stories has been around the fact that we found that there were far more disruption in the Manila part of the country. So Cebu was always secured and safe. That has kind of helped a lot of customers to expand their wings between Manila and Cebu. And I think, I hope the worst is behind us because of Typhoon Odette, but there are learnings from there. We will need support just like it's a public-private partnership whereby we invest in better infrastructure, making sure that the overground cabling goes underground. There's no power disruption, there's no telco disruption. So I think those are the key things that we have to look at from a continued growth of the industry. And in any case, Cebu was a huge real estate, grade A real estate available that gives us much more confidence that tomorrow if there's an opportunity for us to ramp up, the space is there. And that's a big differentiator because some of the center of excellence cities, while they may have the talent pool, the infrastructure, the real estate is not there, which is a big differentiator for Cebu, and that holds it at par with Manila NCR to say, if you're a grade A real estate available in Manila NCR, the next city that can possibly boast about that is Cebu. So I think we're extremely bullish, extremely positive about where we can go from here.
Okay, thank you, President Asim. We have all shared a lot of good things on behalf of our institutions, and with all the players in the industry, I believe we can look at a lot of cooperation in attaining what we intend to do in Cebu. So the industry is also on a positive note with the entry of the new administration, and I believe we could work together with them on this one in trying to reach where we wanted to go. What do you think, Jack?
Well, we started the process of informing the incoming administration even during the campaign period. IBPAP spoke to all the candidates and made sure that we delivered, what the most important message is about our industry. And that is, the IT-BPM industry is an indispensable pillar of the economy and has been for many years. 1.5 million Filipinos are employed in our industry. And that does not include, a multiplier effect of between 3 and 4. So that's easily 5 million Filipino taxpayers, and that's a pretty big chunk of the economy, representing 7% of our country's GDP. So we need to listen to the voice of the employees. We are now living in a very different world of work, one wherein we have to think of things like location independence, and I know that this brings with it some challenges. We, as an industry, we have diversified. We are not only limited to basic contact center work, but have diversified into different verticals, such as financial services, healthcare, information management, and including the creative industries. So there is no one size fits all as we approach this hybrid work setup. It depends on the customers that we serve. It depends on the employer, who should have a very major say, but because of the war on talent, we also have to heed the voice of the employee. So it's going to be a very years as we begin to or continue rather to figure this out. But I think talent, digital infrastructure, and legislation are the building blocks of the future of our industry.
Good things with you at the helm of IBPAP, and the help of all the ICT councils in the region. We are looking at a very positive 2022. Thank you, Pauline, for being with us today. John, thank you very much. President Asim, we had a great time with you, and Mayor Mike Rama for being with us all the time. We had a great day with you. At this point, I'd like to turn over the floor to DJ for the final notes of the day. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank our media partners, Sunstar, The Freeman, Cebu Daily News, our secondary sponsors, MCAV Printing, Seda Hotels, Red Root Artists, and QBE Group Shared Services Center. Thank you to JP Morgan Chase and Company, our silver sponsor, and our gold sponsors, Accenture, IONOS, Ayala Land, and Lexmark, where we're live today. Thanks, Buddy Mayor Mike, Asim, Pauline, Azzy, Jack, and John. It's been a great afternoon of conversation about the next level play. We're now on our second day. We're halfway done and we still have a lot that's in store for everyone. Tomorrow, we will share and discuss more regarding updates specific to the future of software industry and related developments in Cebu, Accenture's technology vision, what's new in fintech, and the future of transportation. It's been an interesting exchange of ideas, insights on how to synergize and make the big leap forward. I'm DJ, this year's conference chair, and on behalf of the President and the Board of Trustees of CIB.O, thank you for your participation and engagement, and see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. for the final day of the 2022 Transformation Summit and Expo. Have a good afternoon.